Hey mages, welcome to today's video, and today I've got for you 5 of the cheapest paper meta decks. Now, I know a lot of you do play MTG Arena, but there's definitely a few people that do play paper as well. And with these decks as well, obviously you can put this in paper. I'm showcasing them on Arena today because not only can you obviously make these decks on Arena, the transition of money to rares on this is totally different. But if you're looking to play in paper and you potentially want to test some of these decks out first before you put cash into them, you might be able to play the decks ready from your collection already. This is a good way if you want to test a deck and maybe going into your Standard Showdown, which is just starting in your LGS with the new set Duskmourn House of Horror that's just come out. So for those of you who don't know, Standard Showdown is when you get to play a standard deck in a weekly competition in your LGSs. So definitely something that I've played before and was very fun to do. All these decks are under $100, so all under around £70 and around 80, I think it's about 85 euros. So there's definitely a few different types of breakdown of the finance for you. There is one that is lower than $50, which would be the last deck that we cover. But all of these decks are very cheap and they're competitive. These are meta decks, and what I've done, I've sourced out ones that have played over many games that are just the cheapest and are still very good and will hopefully get you some wins. When you look at some of the decks in there, I was looking at like 4-color domain, 5-color domain, you're going up to $800+, and the average deck is $300 to $500. So these decks around, just under around the 70, 80, 90 pound mark, I think is very, very good. But without further ado, we're going to go and take a look at our first deck. All the prices are sourced over on my cards on the sponsors Cardmarket. And I will leave the link down for all the decks down below, which is over on my Moxfield, so please give us a follow over there as well. Anyway, let's get on to the first deck. So we're going to get onto our first deck, which is the Rakdos Aggro deck. And this is definitely one of the most popular decks that have been played in Standard at the moment. It's a mono red deck that plays Callous Cell of Sword. Now, this version does not, obviously, it's not looking to play this. The lands are being kept very cheap, just all basic mountains, so very easy for you to get on this as well. This is used for Burn Together. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any other target, then you sacrifice it. So, I'm sure if you played Arena, you come across this deck a lot. I mean, for me, it's normally 1 in 3 matches at least I come across this deck. The idea of it is building up a massive creature and then flinging it at our opponent. So you've got Cacophony Scamp in there, Cacophony Scamp in there, deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it, and then it will deal damage to its power to any target. The other target for this is Heartfire Hero. This is actually, I was surprised how dear this was actually in paper as well. For an uncommon, it's coming in, where is it? Around, just over €4.5. So, yeah, that's quite a lot for an uncommon, but it is so heavily played and it's such a good win con. You build this up when it dies, so, when it does the removal, it just deals damage equal to power to each opponent. But if you get the attack in first and then you get to do Burn Together, that is the idea of the deck. This deck can win. I think it's turn 3. I think it can win. I think I've been beaten by this. So if that plan doesn't work, though, you've got a really good aggressive plan with creatures. Most expensive card in the deck, without a doubt, is Slick Shot Show Off. This is the most expensive card in your deck. It's around €13, this one. So, yeah. It goes in mono red, it goes in this deck, it goes in all different versions, it goes in Grawl Aggro. It's just a very heavily played card. Then you have the Challenger that has Prowess, and the last creature that we're going to talk about here is Monastery Swiftspear. So this just runs one of them in the deck, which I find quite interesting. So you could possibly save yourself a little bit of money and maybe knock a Challenger for these, but I do think, these decks are getting the results as they are. So, I wouldn't recommend changing them if you can't, unless you're building up to the deck like you need. You've got 2 of these in your collection. You haven't got the 3rd at the moment. 2 is still going to be good, and then just replace it with something else. But obviously this is, a great card for this deck. The best, one of the best in the deck. So the idea is getting your creatures down, building up prowess, and then starting to fling this. Now, all these decks as well have sideboards with them as well. So in that money, you're getting 75 cards as well. So 75 cards for this, for this amount of money for a very competitive standard deck, I think is very, very good. When, like I said at the start of the video, when you look at all the price of them, This for me is probably the most consistent deck out of the whole lot, but it is the most expensive budget meta deck, so that does tell you why. Sideboard, this is just set up to try and beat the meta with other decks. Dreadmir's Ire, you do see this sometimes in the main board more as well, but this is in the sideboard here. We have a full playset of shocks in there. More pump spells, blazing crescendo. Some of these I've seen swapped in and out of the decks, but it's going to be up to you when you play your decks and when you go to your LGS and you see what your meta is in your shop, how you think this. You might be able to tweak the sideboard if you want, but this for me, this is the standard one at the moment, and this does, this deck is just getting wins. It just really, really is. Players can't gain life is a really helpful card. Damage can't be prevented as well. This coming in is a pretty sweet sideboard card coming in. It's a big 5/4 as well, and when it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. So when you're playing against like the 5-color domain decks, those really expensive, nearly $1,000 decks, this with all their non-basic lands is going to be a very sweet card. But they do have a lot of removal, but if you get a few turns out of it, still very nice, and stopping them from gaining life when they're playing the Herd Migrations as well is definitely going to help out. But yeah, this is the first deck. I think it's definitely one of the best, and easily test it out on Arena if you want as well before you put the money down in paper if you've got the cards, and see how it fares. But let's get on to the next deck. So our next deck is Jeski Convoke. So this one's just a little bit cheaper, just over €80. This one, definitely a fun type of deck. Convoke. I love War Leader's Call. I just think it's such a cool card. And when you're playing lots of creatures, you get this down and gives them a pump. And whenever a creature you control enters, War Leader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent as well. So you've got lots of little creatures in here, and you've got ways to make tokens as well. So convoking this really early is good. You get to reveal the top, look at the top 6 cards of your library and reveal up to 2 creature cards. Another one that is a very good consistent deck and can amass the field, and can recover well from wraths, this one as well. So it does have a fair amount of like early play creatures. We got a single Yoshin. Novice Inspector comes down, makes an artifact as well. Warden is great once you get these early creatures down. You're getting your Novice Inspector down, getting that Investigate artifact clue token down, and if you've got Gleeful Demolition in your hand for turn 2, you could then create 3 more tokens, and you can see how this deck will then just straight away get into the Knight Errant of Eos. Get this down very quick. If you can get your turn 3 warders, if you can get War Leaders Call down on turn 3, give them the pump, it does lead to some very quick wins this. And even if they do clear the board, leaving this on the board, and then just your next turn you're playing another Novice Inspector and maybe your second Gleeful, you're then smashing in with another 3 damage as those creatures come in, and it's giving them a pump ready to attack again. Siren can also put in a map, which will really help. You've got the lots of triggers for the Gleeful Demolition in this deck, and I just really love it. It's just so good and consistent, this deck. The removal is in case of the Gateway Express. 1 damage to a target creature, each of the number of creatures you control, and as you see, you're going to be amassing lots of creatures in this. So even when opponents do play those, those bigger beastie decks, maybe big stompy decks or mid-range decks, you've got the ability here with this. But as long as you've got, it is situational where you need stuff on the field, but you've still got the ability to remove creatures, and then you're going really wide with this, with this deck. Second wink on Immodane's Recruiter. If you've not got your cooldown, this coming in can pay the 5 to make the substitutes, but a lot of the time you're not doing that because you're trying to get the wins early, and you're just literally playing this as it comes down. All creatures get +1/0 in haste and just swing in for the win. I really like this deck. I think it's really cool. You get, in this price, you get lots of rare lands as well. So you'll be able to utilize these for different paper decks as well. Lands are obviously a lot, one of the most important cards that you need for decks to keep decks consistent. You've got Inspiring Vantage, Battlefield Forge, Spirobluff Canal, which is one of the most expensive cards in the deck as well. We've got a full play set of these, and then a Darker Sea Chrome. It's just so you don't want to be skipping your turns. You really want your turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 plays here, because you can literally win that consistency and that quick with it. If you go to the sideboard, we've got lots of removal. Destroy Evil. Get Lost is about a 7, I think it's around about a $7 or $8 card, so very expensive. You do see sometimes 1 of these or 2 of these in the main board. Lightning Helix coming in, good against mono red decks, and any aggro deck gaining that little bit of life. And as I spoke about in the first deck, killing those Heartfires early, you want to get rid of them so Torch the Tower can come in and it exiles them, which means then they're not going to do the damage, which is really cool when they've got the Heartfires, and as long as you can do that damage, and you've got the ability to bargain it because of the artifact, so very good cards. And then just some counter magic as well, but the ability to make a token. So although we run blue card in the main, we do have Protect Negotiators in the sideboard for this to actually make it Jeskyber. Yeah, very fun. I've not played this iteration of the deck. I've normally played a Boros one, but I do like the addition of blue, being a blue mage myself. And I think, yeah, if you choose this deck to play your FNMs, I think this would be very good. Now we do go to blue-white. It's an aggro deck, just under the €80 mark. So very nice. We've got a couple of crossover cards in this one. So this does run a couple of Get Lost in the main board. One of the most expensive cards in there. It runs like an aggressive artifact type of deck where you have this card called Zoetic Glyph in this. If you've not come across this deck, you put this onto a token. So you've got your Novice in there that can make the Clue token as well. You've got your Spiroglass again. So a few crossover cards in this one. And then you attach this to one of those artifacts and it just becomes a smasher 5/4 edition. When it's put into the graveyard as well, you get to discover 3. And as you can see, we've got a lot of spells under 3 as well. So you will be able to exile a non-land card value 3 or less and cast it without paying its mana cost. So plenty in there to go and do that with as well. There is a card called Case of the Filched Falcon. We've just got a couple of these in there. If you control 3 or more artifacts, you get to solve it, sacrifice it. 4 1/1 counters on a non-creature artifact. So that again will get, make your map into a big creature, make your Clue into a big creature as well, and just will add to the board. Subterranean Schooner is a nice artifact, 3/4, good stats, only crew 1, and when the target creature, you get to explore as well. So a very good utilizing creature for this. What else do we have in this deck? We got Mockingbird. 4 Mockingbird can enter as a copy of anything. And you've got some good stuff to copy here. But it's any creature on the battlefield with mana value less. So you pay the X. So you could even just copy something your opponents. But when you've got cards like Steel Seraph in there, beginning of your combat, this one, choice of Flying Visions or Lifelink, copying these is really, really sweet. Getting multiples of these on the field. Flying over, getting that evasion in there. Very cool card, and you can obviously play this for 3 or late game potentially coming down as a 6 drop as well. Making lots of creatures, turning stuff into creatures. Regal Bunnycorn is in there. Power and toughness equal to the number of non-land permanents you control. And then we also run a spring-loaded Sawblades. Flash, Sawblades ends 5 damage to target tapped creature opponent controls. For 2 mana, very good. That is certainly gonna, hit a lot of creatures in the format. And then we can craft it with an artifact for 4 mana, and it turns into a 5/5 crew 1 vehicle. Very nice as well. So, we've got ways to make a lot of big creatures in this out of this little tiny weeny deck, like 1-drop, 2-drops. We'll be making potentially 5/4s, 5/5s. We can really make some massive stuff in here. Landblaze. You're getting some good lands. Mirix is obviously a very good land to have it in the deck and can go in poison decks as well. Seacrone Coast. We're running 3 of the Anchorage. They will make map tokens, so a simple attack with this. Even if you just need that map token to go on there to either put something like a glyph on it or something like that. Which is why that's in there. It's a very good card. And then we have a Darker and a few basics in this one as well. Take a look at the sideboard. Counter Magic, Disdainful Strokes in there. You got a full playset of No More Lies. You get a really good sideboard in this one for the money as well. Metropolis, Reformer, Flying Vigilance. You have Hexproof. Reformers dealt damage. You gain that much life. So brilliant against mono reg decks. This can just come straight in against those aggro decks that will be targeting you and stuff like that. Lauren acts as removal. Sometimes a little bit slow, but it's still a 2/1 creature. And obviously you can both draw cards as well. Soul Petition is a good way to slow stuff down. Exiling permanents will make them cost 2 more. And then we have Bodyguard, this flash creature that can come in, exile up to 1 target non-flux creature until end of turn. Until this leaves the battlefield, and you can sacrifice it and gain a bit of life as well. So maybe Flash is a blocker, but more controlling aspect in the sideboard, and can definitely cast to come in against some of those lower aggro decks that we've already spoke about that you will definitely find. But let's get on to the 4th deck. So our 4th deck is Izzet Prowess. This deck is all about spells, prowess. It's a tricksy kind of deck. It's our deck that runs a Planeswalker, so we get Ral Crackling Wit in this deck. Can make those red and blue otters with prowess, and the idea of this is obviously to play spells, build those cards up with the prowess, and basically go from there. We have 16 instants in this one, and 3 sorceries, 3 enchantments, 2 planeswalkers, and 14 creatures in this one, with quite a low CMC. So let's take a look at the creatures. Stormcatch Mentor is a really cool uncommon. Haste Prowess, instant and sorcery spells do cost 1 less to cast. Now, we do run a few instants and sorceries of the 1-drop, so it's not really going to affect that with these. Like we have Shock as removal, Torch the Tower, and we've got Phantom Interference as well that can be a counterspell or make a token as well. But we do run, a couple of more expensive ones. We've got Pearl of Wisdom here. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control an otter. So, with instant sorcery spells with Stormcatch on there as well, potentially then costs 1 more or less. So it's going to cost 1 mana to draw 2 cards, which is really cool. And then you have Meeting of Minds. This has Convoke, so we can, use creatures to pay for it, or we can make it cheaper other ways, and then go and draw some more cards. So card draw, is pretty sweet in this deck, I will say. So going back to this, Storm Chaser's Talent, this will create a 1/1 otter as well. So we have a few ways to make, amass the board with these otters, and then the idea is to play spells to either keep the battlefield clear by using your removal, like Shock, Torch. We've got Stoke the Flames that can be convoked and obviously just cost then double red, which is really cool, or even cheaper. I think. This deck is a deck that I think you'll have to learn to play and know when to time, everything like that. Definitely one of the more trickier decks I find. I just find that for if you're a new or beginner player, this it's definitely a trickier deck to play from my experience of playing it. So Kitzer, Otterball, Elite, 4 of these in it. Vigilance, Prowess, 1/3, really cool art. This nice otter. Draw a card, discard a card, so you can go through your deck. Pay 2, copy target instant source spell control. You may choose new targets for the copy, but only activate if Kitter's power is 3 or greater. So you're going to have to trigger this up a couple of times to get the power up there. But then potentially copying a spell like Stoke the Flames, then doing 8 damage seems really decent. But yeah, you are going to have to trigger this up a couple of times and then have the mana. So there's a few hoops to go through with that, I think, to get up there. But the draw card and discard card is still very nice. We then have our other Otter Wizard, Offspring 4. So you may pay additional 4. If you do, then you create a copy of it. It's a 1/1. Look at the top 4 cards when this enters. May reveal a non-creature non-anchor. Put in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. This is it's a 1/2. But the ability to maybe get a couple of these on there and then look at the top 4, look at the top 4 twice is a good way to go through. So it can come down as a nice turn 2 play, but late game it's not going to be a terrible card for the deck as well. The Flash-in Otter casts non-creature spells as though they had flash. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, birds, frogs, otters, ratchet, get +1/1 to end of turn. And untap them as well. So attacking in, then getting to do it in opponent's turn, untapping seems nice. Not legendary either, so get this on there, maybe get a couple of triggers. I think this is really cool. Lovely art as well. A lot of the otter art I really do like. But yeah, if you love otters, this is definitely going to be the deck for you without a doubt. The land base, we get a few of the gain life lands. Spiroglyph Canal, which is obviously seen in a couple of the decks. One of the more expensive. This runs 3. Then you've got a single Spire, couple of Shivan Reef, and then quite a few basics in this one. I mean, I don't see no harm. Obviously, this is for the price it is, which was around €75, I think, this one. If you've got extra lands, just take some of these basics out. You're not, you're only going to make the deck better. But this is your base. This is how the deck can play and the deck can win. Sideboard, removal, counter magic, as we see in a lot of sideboards because you're combating different decks. Bouncage with into the floor. And then you got removal, barrage, counter magic, disdainful stroke. Brother's End is actually one of the most, more expensive cards in your sideboard. This has definitely bumped the price up a bit. I can't remember what it was. I think it was about $4, $5, $6, something like that. So a couple of them, definitely has added to the price in this. We got another Phantom Interference. Mithril, Tectonic, negates, and then really good 5 damage removal that can cost less with the Frenzy, which I think is really good. But yeah, is it Prowess? A very good deck. Tricky deck. Not tricky. Just definitely a deck you're going to have fun learning to play. And, when you're timing your spells with this one, it's not just simply aggro, go down, smash. This is literally like timing what you got to do, timing your removal, getting the untaps, knowing when to play and what to do. But a very fun deck to learn without a doubt. But let's get on to our cheapest and final deck. So here we go. It's Oars of Bats. Around $50. This deck is so cool. Very consistent, very fun to play. I love playing bats. I think it's just, I'm a really good treble deck that I think is, for me, very fun to play, and you can pick it up and you will certainly get your wins with this deck. It's just, life gain, everything like that. Some hard for the aggro decks to deal with. We look at the creatures. We'll start off with Lurkabat, Flying Life. Think you're straight in with your 1/1 creature in there. Beginning of your end state, if you descend this turn, you get to scry 1, but a great way to start off and start gaining that life. Duo. When another creature you control enters, you gain life. This is really set up to go against aggro decks. Although they're low toughness, they're going to be easy to remove. They have to remove them. When the removal, like your shocks and your lightning strikes are coming at your creatures, they're not being aimed at your head, so it does give you a chance. Essence Channeler, a 2/1. As long as you've lost life this turn, this has Flying and Vigilance. Put a 1/1 counter on it. When it dies, put all its counters on another target creature as well. So very good. Deep Cavern Bat, another one with lifelink, getting to look at opponents' hand. Even if they kill it straight away, you're still looking at what you're up against. So this is why this is in so many decks. This is one of the most popular cards in Standards and just hits everything that basically it runs black. It's just such a good card. If you get a couple of hits in with it as well, gain a bit of life. Very, very nice. Cleric, just essential to the deck because this is really, one of your separate type of win cons. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses life. And it has offsprings, you can put multiples of these on the field. So late game, putting 2 on for 5 mana is very good. And Flying Evasion, very, very nice. Zoraline, the leader of the deck is Zoraline, Cosmos Caller. Whenever a bat you control attacks, you gain 1 life. So if we have a look at the stats, we've got 24 bats in this deck. So getting these all on the field and getting those triggers with these. Obviously 4 of those bats are there. So we have 20 different bats, as we say. But, that life swing is great and can really just kill those, If they don't get your turn 3 with that red deck, then this will just gradually get you back to the game where they just can't basically get back because you've got the removal to get rid of the creatures. You go for the throats as a 4 of. You've got 2 cut downs as well. More life gain here. So you're just gaining so much life with this deck that it can just overtake it. 4 life gain lands as well. Straight in this because it just works so well in conjunction with the gaining life and everything like that in there. And you need a bit of life because it runs 2 hives that will drain you 1 life, but I think the life in this deck definitely negates this. And just amassing these, it's just a constant threat. And this type of card is really good against the control decks. Last creature to talk about is Ogre. Another one with offspring, but the offspring is only 1 in this. You can pay this for 4 mana. And at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of the library, and you lose life equal to its mana value. And you can see we've got 1 card that can really hit us really bad, which is the single Bat God that has to be in the deck, of course. Do see some run 2, but it's an expensive card. So, this variation ran 1, which I think is nice. It's just really good, and it's just recurring threat because when it dies, it goes as a land, and then you can reactivate it potentially as well. So whenever an opponent discards a land card, create a 1/1 bat. Last card to talk about though, Lunar Convocation. Beginning of your end state, if you gain life this turn, each opponent loses life, so you can drain more, like with the Cleric, and do this. And at the beginning of your end state, if you gain a lost life turn, you create another bat, and it gives you more triggers for Zoraline, just amassing those bats. And forgot to say that Zoraline also has a way to recur stuff as well from your graveyard, and mana value 3 or less. Well, the deck is all 3 or less. lands. We spoke about barons. You got some rare lands in here. You got a couple of courtyard, a couple of 4 courtyards. It was 2 different arts I've got in here. Caves of Kalios, and then some basics. Again, looking at the sideboard, bit of hand destruction. Make Your Move is perfect for this deck as well, because enchantments are just everywhere in standard at the moment. So destroying a big creature and the enchantments is very good, because you're going to get those, those really good big creatures that have just come in. And Sonar Strike, 4 damage to target attacking blocked attack creature. You gain 3 life if you control the bat. So smashing this in against those aggro decks, and that 3 life swing is just really, really sweet. There's a single Mahar in there, which is, a nice big flying trampler. Just another beatdown, not a bat, but just a good beatdown creature. Removal, Eclipse, and then we got some Savior, creating food tokens, so a bit more life gain potential and, instant speed. I haven't seen this one played much in standard, but it's in the sideboards of this deck and done very well. So, Starfall Invocation, destroy creatures if the gift has promised return a creature card, put in the graveyard this way. So you gift the card, but then you're going to maybe get back a really good creature. And then a single Sunfall for mass exile removal, which is sometimes what you need. So that was 5 paper standard decks for you. Let me know what you think of them. Obviously, play them on Arena if you want. I've showcased it on Arena today because just obviously graphically it's better and easier to see for you all. But you can definitely take these decks there and give them a try if you've got a lot of the cards already. And then it might give you an inkling of whether you want to play them in paper as well. And then take them to your standard showdowns and hopefully get yourself some and win some of those booster packs if that's what your LGS does. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, of course, the spill, give it a thumbs up. It really does help. Much appreciated. Cheers to all my Patreons. Come join them. You get all deck lists early and everything like that. And there's a few other things on there. Come and join the Total MTG Army. And yeah, you lot take care. See you on the next video.